Celtic Myths and Legends by T.W. Rolleston. Chapter 1, The Celts in Ancient History. And we continue here with Celts and Germans. Yes, even though Austria-Germany was an area that the Celts spring from, there's a difference between the Celt and the German. But anyways, as we have said before, this territory was by no means inhabited by the Celt alone. In particular, we have to ask, who and where were the Germans? The Tutu Gothic tribes, the Tuta Gothic tribes, who eventually took the place of the Celts as the great northern menace to classical civilization. They are mentioned by Pytheas, the eminent Greek traveler and geographer, about 300 BCE. I'm not sure what the Greek looks like for some of these, so if I pronounce it wrong. And we're actually using Latin variations of what the spellings would be, so that is different in itself too. Anyways, about 300 BCE, and they played no part in history till under the name of Cimbri and the Teutons. They descended on Italy to be vanquished by Marius at the close of the 2nd century. The ancient Greek geographers prior to Pytheas know nothing of them, and assign all the territories, now known as Germanic, to various Celtic tribes. The explanation given by de Jubainville, and based by him on various philological considerations, is that the Germans were a subject people comparable to those unfree tribes who existed in Gaul and in ancient Ireland. They lived under the Celtic dominion and had no independent political existence. De Jubainville finds that all the worlds connected with law and government and war, which are common both to the Celtic and Teutonic languages, were borrowed by the latter from the former. Chief among them are the words represented by the modern German Reich, Empire, Amt, office, and the Gothic Reichs, a king, all of which are of unquestioned Celtic origin. De Jubainville also numbers among loanwords from Celtic the words ban and order, frei, free, Geisel, a hostage, Erbe, an inheritance, worth, value, Weih, sacred, Magus, a slave, Gothic, Winnie, a wife, Old High German. Vine, Winnie, in the Goetia right now, the quinary number 45. If you divide the year into 72 or 73 portions, we're on 45. Old High German. Skulks, Skalk, a slave, Gothic, Hathu, battle, Old German, Heleth, held, a hero, from the same short word as the word Celt. Here, an army, Celtic, Chorus, Sieg, victory, Butte, booty, Berg, a castle, and many others. The etymological history of some of these words is interesting. Amt, for instance, that word of so much significance in modern German administration goes back to an ancient Celtic baktos, which is compounded of the words ambe, about, and aktos, a past participle derived from the Celtic root ag, meaning to act. Now ambe descends from the primitive Indo-European be, where the initial m is a kind of vowel, afterwards represented by, in Sanskrit, by a. A. This m vowel became the n in those German words, which derived directly from the primitive Indo-European tongue. But the word, which is now represented by umt, appears in its earliest Germanic form as mbahat, thus making plain its descent from the Celtic baktos. Again, the word fry is found in its earliest Germanic form as vrijas, virjo, which comes from the primitive Indo-European prijas. The word here does not, however, mean free. It means beloved. Sanskrit priyas. In the Celtic language, however, we find prijas, dropping the initial P. A difficulty in pronouncing this letter was a marked feature in ancient Celtic. It changed J according to a regular roll into d, and appears in modern Welsh as rhaid. Free. I don't know how to pronounce Welsh. The Indo-European meaning persists in the Germanic languages, with the name of the so-called love goddess, Freya, and in the word Freund, friend, Friede, peace. The sense borne by the word in the sphere of civil right is traceable to a Celtic origin, and in that sense appears to have been a loan from Celtic. The German Butte, booty, plunder, has also an instructive history. There was a Gaulish word, bade, found in the compounds, such as the place name Segobadium, Sevaux. If it's French, I think you don't say the X, but the various personal and tribal names, including Boudica, better known to us as the British warrior queen, Boadicea. The word meant, anciently, victory. But the fruits of victory are spoil, and in this material sense the word was adopted in German and French, Butin in Norse, Beit, and the Welsh Bud. On the other hand, the word preserved its elevated significance in Irish. In the Irish translation of Chronicles 29:2, where the Vulgate original has Tua es Domine magnificentia et potentia et gloria et victoria. The word Victoria is rendered by the Irish Buigd, and, as the Jubainville remarks, Sed est paste butin goel sa'agit. He goes on to say that Buigd has preserved in Irish, thanks to a vigorous and persistent literary culture, the high meaning which it bore in the tongue of the Gaulish aristocracy. The material sense of the word was alone perceived by the lower classes of the population, and it is the tradition of this lower class which has been preserved in the German, the French, and the Cymric languages. Two things, however, The Celts either could not or would not impose on the subjected German tribes their language and their religion. In these two great factors of race unity and pride lay the seeds of the ultimate German uprising and overthrow of the Celtic supremacy. The names of the German are different from those of the Celtic deities. Well, if we look at the Latin, we're going to say functionaries of worship. So there's something mentioned as part of the worship. Doesn't mean necessarily that they're gods. Their funeral customs with which are associated. The deepest religious concepts of primitive races are different. The Celts are, at least the dominant section of them, buried their dead, regarding the use of fire as a humiliation to be inflicted on criminals or upon slaves or prisoners, and those terrible human sacrifices which are the greatest stain on their native culture. The Germans, on the other hand, burned their illustrious dead on pyres. Like the early Greeks, if a pyre could not be afforded for the whole body, the noblest parts, such as the head and arms, were burned and the rest buried. Well, formal human sacrifice outside of the Semites and the Persians pretty much exist in all the other 17 races of humanity. And if we're going to go all order of 9 angles, that could be part of the meaning which they were thinking of when they said that you kill a 22-year-old every 17 years. Well, using 22 as the number of the letters in Hebrew as we know it, and later Aramaic too, but